My cozy, what the hell am I calling this video? My cozy cold books for a white winter. Kind of like a tongue twister. Happy wintertime, everyone. It's Bells. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today, we're going to talk about my favorite cozy wintertime books to really set the mood for a white, chilly winter in front of a fireplace. That's the vibe of all the books that I'm giving you here. I have a whole gambit of different genres, so grab your TBR list and a nice warm cup of tea, and let's bring on the books. I wanted to start off with a bang, and so we're gonna start with Ken Follett's Whiteout. This book is set in the middle of a snowstorm on Christmas Eve, so it's kind of like the perfect thriller for this time of the year. It's about a deadly virus that goes missing from a lab. A bunch of characters are snowed in this manor in the middle of nowhere, and the lead, what is she, a journalist or a scientist? She is like trying to figure out what's going on. If you've been watching my channel for any number of videos, you know I have a hard time with thrillers. I really like Ken Follett. He wrote one of my favorite historical fictions, and I just think his storytelling and his characters are so divine. And so for a thriller, I really like that this doesn't really involve a lot of cops, because I don't like reading about cops. Forgive me. The back doesn't even have a summary, it just has a picture of his face. This is a very fun thriller about a virus that should not make you feel worse about the time that we live in. Definitely, I would check out Whiteout for all of your thriller, I would check out Whiteout for all of your wintry thriller needs. The second one I have is Norwegian Wood by lovely Haruki Murakami. This was my first Murakami that I ever read. I read it earlier this year, and I just adored it. I talk about it in a different video, so I won't go too much into it. But I think this is the perfect book for a nostalgic, really somber, cozy read when the snow is drifting down outside. You know what I mean? When it's not snowstorming, there's not wind, it's just that really calm, quiet snow. That's what this book is for. It's a coming of age story that follows two characters through the grief and growing up after the death of their mutual best friend. It's a really lovely conversation about mental health. A large portion of it does take place during wintertime. I think Murakami is so honest in what it's like to be a young person, to try and find your way in the world, especially when you're dealing with grief, when you don't know how to handle relationships, when the people around you maybe aren't the best influences. I think it's just a really lovely nostalgic story. It's sad, but it made me feel so comforted. So I think if you're looking for something super comforting with really, really in-depth characters that just kind of makes you want to cuddle up in the quiet of wintertime, I think this is definitely the pick for you. I'm gonna spill my fucking tea everywhere. Oh yes, okay, so my next pick is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Now, this might feel like an interesting pick because it's not set during wintertime or anything, but it is an adult fairy tale. It's literally, the tagline is the beloved fairy tale for grown-ups that follows this boy who promises to bring back a fallen star for the woman who he thinks is the love of his life, and he escapes into the fairy world and has this adventure with a star who is a person in this world. It's so magical and so beautiful and so dangerous. You're so invested in these characters, and the villain in this story is just horrible. I think this book is a great pick for wintertime. It's a quick read, and I think this is a great read for that time in between seeing family and going back to school or work, when you just kind of need to escape from everything for a little bit, go into another world, but you don't want to read 100 pages of a heady fantasy. I think this is a great pick for that. And it's just who doesn't love reading fairy tales around the holidays, around wintertime? We want it to feel magical. Again, it's kind of a coming of age story, but with fairies and witches and magic, and literally what else more could we ever want? My next pick for a wintry pick was actually the book that got me back into reading, and it is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. It's about female spies during World War II, and how freaking cool is that? This was the book that got me out of a 5-year-long reading slump. The historical information that you get from it, it is a fiction, but it's following stories that haven't really been told about World War II about these female spies that really did a huge service to the winning of the war. That's it. That's what it is. This story is perfect for the beginning of winter break, when like all you want to do is sit with a story and like relax after a huge long year of work and COVID and all the rest of it. It is really worth the time investment that you spend in it. I think the payoff is fantastic. When it came to the twist of the story, and like you kind of know the twist as you get closer to the end of it, but the way that it plays out, the satisfaction of the final confrontation scene, oh my god, I don't know if I've been satisfied reading a confrontation in the same way since this book. It was just fantastic. Best enjoyed with like a pet on your feet under like a super heavy blanket and a cup of like cinnamony tea to keep you awake. I'm setting the mood for you here. But yeah, I really love that book. I just think it's really lovely. I digress. Okay. Anyway, so the next book I put on this list is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think after what is coming on almost 2 long years, yes, you want people to read Invisible Life of Addie LaRue too? Okay, well my cat says so now you have to do it. After 2 long years of COVID and trying to find our way in the world again and grow from the journey that we've been on and still protect ourselves and our families as the holidays grow closer, it's a lot of pressure. We've been under a lot of stress for a long time, and honestly, the best thing about this book was it's a good cry. You are just gonna sit and cry. And it's totally worth it, and it's totally deserved, and I just thought the relationship is really lovely. Oh, I guess I should tell you what it's about. It's about this girl who basically makes a deal with the devil to stay alive as long as she wants to stay alive. But the trade-off is that everybody forgets her as soon as they walk out of the room. So she spent like 300 years by herself, and then she meets this boy who, for whatever reason, doesn't forget her. I really loved the emphasis on art and how art and books and music and film and everything like that can be something that really sustains us for lifetimes. I mean, that's why we're here, right? Is we love books. We love that form of media. So I just think it is a love letter to art and media in all of its forms, but it's also just a really lovely romantic story. It's perfect for like just letting yourself be swept away by the love of art. Yes. I'm gonna have a little sip of tea. My next recommendation is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I've talked about this in like a million videos because I just freaking loved this book. I thought this book was so beautiful. Daphne du Maurier's writing is just gorgeous. It's such a great historical piece. I think it's a great classic if you want to get into classics but don't like classics, which is like me. It's a gothic story. It's about this girl who meets this older man, falls in love, takes her back to his castle, and his ex-wife is kind of everywhere. Like, her touch is all over the house. The shitty housekeeper keeps comparing this new gal to Rebecca, who's his ex-wife, and so it feels like there's like a ghost in this house. And essentially she is just spending this time like unraveling the secrets of Maxim, who's her now husband, and trying to find her way. It's just so beautiful. Her writing is just like so good. She's so lyrical and so lovely and moving with her words, and I picked this specifically for winter cozy reads because it is a very slow burn thriller. If it is even a thriller, it's like in the gothic style, right? So it's very focused on like that feeling of isolation. I would describe it as like gothic and mysterious and chilly. Like chilly as in cold. Like you want to read this while you're like snuggled up, ready for the winter. I don't know. You should like sit in front of like the fireplace or like the Yule Log YouTube channel or whatever and read this book, because it feels like you're in the manor in Cornwall and it's rainy and gloomy and it just like suits a wintry vibe. So if you're looking for something a little bit different to read this winter time, I still think this is a very cozy book, honestly, even though it's kind of dealing with a lot of, I was just gonna say subject matter, that obviously it's dealing with subject matter. It's dealing with like a lot of heavy subject matter, but I don't know, it's just, there's something about it that was very cozy to me, and maybe I'm just a weirdo and like reading gothic stories a lot, which is very possible. So I have one more recommendation for you all, and this might seem a little silly, but also like it's coming. just like winter, because winter is coming, because it's Game of Thrones. It's a Game of Thrones. Read the first book. Let me preface this by saying I know everyone in the whole freaking world knows about Game of Thrones, whether you've read it or watched the show or heard about the show or refused to watch the show. The book is so much better than the show. And yes, it's a heady political fantasy that requires a lot of focus. This is not an easy book to read. This is very deceptive, the size of these pages. Like, if this has been on your bucket list to read, like, this is your sign to read it. He's gonna release the next ones eventually. I know he is. There's a reason why everyone loved this story in the first place, and if you've never read this book and you're looking for something like political and heady and yes, super wintry, the entire purpose of these books is that winter is coming, the snowy zombies are all coming, and everyone's too caught up in their political mind games to really care. It's so worth reading. I promise it's so worth reading. I'm gonna reread it here soon at some point. If you're looking for something to like really sink your teeth into, this is it. If you're looking for something accessible, if you're looking for an easy read, this is absolutely not it. So like, don't do that. Go read Stardust. That's a great read if you're looking for something easier and still kind of fantastical. This is a lovely book, but it is sad and heady and dark. Those are my cozy cold books for a white winter. I hope you enjoyed them. I'd love to know what you guys are reading this winter time. If you want more book recommendations, I'll put a playlist up here somewhere with all of my recommendation videos that you can go and check out. And otherwise, I hope you have a lovely winter, a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video.